Welcome to the Kinvestor Report, where we sit down with industry experts to discuss the latest developments in the Canadian small cap sector. I'm your host, Arlen Hansen. Standard disclaimer, no part of this interview should be construed as investment advice, and as they don't know what stocks we're talking about today, Kin may own shares or be compensated by the companies that we discuss in today's interview. Today, I'm honored to be joined by the legendary and the one and only Bob Moriarty, president of 321gold.com. Bob was a former pilot in the U.S. Marines Corps during Vietnam, 834 missions in combat, and is well known as the third pilot in history to fly a plane under the Eiffel Tower. He's run 321gold.com for 22 years, offering up-to-date information about finance and resource investments, but is mostly loved for his views and opinions on gold. He's fanatical, he's wildly entertaining, and you can't not love the way Bob tells you how it is. So here we are today telling you how it is on gold. Bob, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. And of course, we just had a little short chat before this. We're in scary times.
We are. How do you sleep?
I sleep okay. It's waking up that I get nervous about.
No kidding. Well, super timely discussion here. Gold has run well over $100 in like 11 short trading days, going from extremely oversold to somewhat overbought if you're looking at it technically. However, you and I are both long-term believers in the shiny yellow metals, and so I need to ask you, you speak so much about gold and your conviction on gold, and how do you have so much conviction? Like, where did you find your love for the shiny yellow metal?
I don't love it.
You don't love it?
I'm actually not a gold bug.
Okay.
The value in gold is literally how you view it. And I view it as an insurance policy. Okay. I'm not one of these guys that worships at the altar of silver or worships at the altar of gold. However, should we ever run into a financial crisis, it would be handy to have an insurance policy. And historically, the best insurance policy has always been gold. So I just have that sneaking suspicion that sooner or later we're going to have a financial crisis and gold's going to come into its own. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. So speaking of that, where do you think we are in this bull market cycle for gold then as we speak right now? And like, why does it matter now?
Well, strange enough, and that the way you put that was very good. The only way that you could have put it any better is, why does it make any difference today? Okay, if you want to look at the slow motion start to World War III, it's going on right now as we speak. So there's two different situations with gold. There's gold as a commodity, gold as an insurance policy against financial chaos. And then there is gold as, what do you do if the world is on the verge of ending? And we've never been in that situation before, but I am very happy to know I can put my hands on gold very quickly. If ever there was a time to own gold, it would be now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's funny, the last few interviews I've had with like Brian London and Gwen, I talked about like, where's that terrace premium in gold? It's just been non-existent for years and years and years, and now it feels like it's all of a sudden in our face. So do you think do you think this $100 run, is this just the war premium, or is this a bit of everything all of a sudden coming to a head?
No, it's strictly sentiment. Okay, I wrote a piece on September 28th, and I said silver and gold and bonds and treasury notes and orange juice and the British pound and the US dollar and the Mexican peso are about to turn in the next month. And they all turned about a week later, and that was based strictly on sentiment. And I'll tell you, the amazing thing is, I don't think there's a war premium. I think people are totally oblivious. Now, how much do you know about my military background?
Well, not enough.
Okay, that's a fair answer. That's good enough. I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. I was an F-4 pilot. I went to Vietnam for 20 months. I flew 125 missions in the F-4 and another 700 missions in Bird Dogs, which was a record for any American pilot flying fixed-wing aircraft in any war. I know war. I know how they start. I know how once you start one, they're really difficult to end. Now, let me offer you a scenario. If Egypt and Lebanon and Iran and Syria and Saudi Arabia and Oman had an oil embargo, how would you respond? What could you do to stop that?
I don't know the answer, Bob.
Yeah, you do. There's nothing.
There's nothing you can do. I guess that's my answer is I don't. Yeah, I don't know the answer, and that's because it's nothing. It's
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't bomb them just because they shut off the oil. They've got all the right in the world to shut off the oil. I believe there's 100% chance of the Gulf of Hormuz or the Strait of Hormuz being closed. And I'm 100% convinced there will be an Arab oil embargo, just as there was in 1973. And the scary thing, and this is where it gets bizarre, there is nothing the United States can do about it. There is nothing the EU can do about it. There is nothing the UN can do it. They've got all the right in the world. Shut off the oil. So whoever started this, and I've got a big question about that, because there's so much of this stuff that doesn't make any sense. Whoever started this had started something that could go very evil very quickly.
Very quickly.
And again, you know, I told people they should own gold because the banks are in dangerous position, which of course we know it's true. The banks are getting totally clobbered. Bank of America reported earnings, and if you consider how much their mark-to-market bonds were, their losses were twice as great as their earnings were.
Wasn't it $130 billion?
Exactly.
Mark to market? Yeah, just, the numbers are staggering. Okay, so going to the oil embargo, what does that mean for gold?
Okay, what happened in 1973 at the Arab oil embargo? Oil went from $3 to $12 a barrel. What did gold do?
I wasn't alive back then, Bob, but I'm pretty sure it did well.
It went up. Strange enough, I mean, gold and silver and precious metals, and especially the resource stocks, are literally on the verge of an explosion higher because they're the last game in town. There is nothing left to invest in. And the strange thing is, I don't understand why the Arabs haven't already declared an oil embargo, because it's the one thing that you can do that is not a threat to anybody in particular, but it's a threat to everybody in general. And it would, I mean, you could turn the lights out in Europe if they did that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm clearly not an expert on war or weapons. And I want to get into the gold. So we've established that there's certainly some sort of premium coming into the gold market a little bit, but clearly not at the level that we think it should be at yet.
No. There is no premium right now. You can go back, and I've written about sentiment and the daily sentiment indicator. I have probably called 50 or 60 turns, and every single one of them was correct. Now, September 28th, we had no notice whatsoever that the world was about to explode.
Yeah.
Yet, you go back to September 28th, I said gold, silver, orange juice, commodities are all going to turn. The turn was strictly based on sentiment, and I don't think there's any war premium. I mean, literally what happened today with shooting this helicopter down should have been worth $50 on gold.
Yeah.
And everybody's ignoring it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, it's in North America, no one's been touched by it. Like really, unless you are a war vet or of like at least my generation or the people younger than me. And what I think is very different about this is we're seeing this touch home a lot more because we've just got a much different society where different religions are blended in with each other now much more, right? And it's just a very precarious, very interesting time. But to get back to gold here, I think we're seeing gold trade at all-time highs in a lot of other currencies. But in so why is that happening? Like I see it everywhere. I think it was Japan yesterday, Australia, Asia, but North America continues to be at a discount. So what's the disconnect there?
It's going to soon. And strange enough, when I saw it turn and see that $60 move 10 days ago, I thought, okay, someone has lit the fuse. The amazing thing is that we're 4.5% below the highest price gold that's ever been in US dollars. And the strange thing is it could do that in one day. And I think it will. If you go back to 2008 and you were alive then, you had $100 moves in gold up and $100 moves in gold down, and you just couldn't predict it. It was like a loose cannon on a sailboat. Okay, it was going to go from one side to the other side to the other side, and we're very close to that point. You could see some bizarre moves up and down with gold next week, 2 weeks, month.
Yeah, that move certainly felt different. And considering that we've been living with these gold shorts for so long, that move that didn't, it kind of felt like people are scared to start shorting gold again. It kind of felt like that. Like the long, like, so that's why we can start seeing these moves, because people are like, oh, I don't think shorting gold is a good call on any given day. Right. And it's just interesting to see how much power came into that move so fast, so quickly. So what's the biggest risk investing in gold right now, do you think?
Not owning it.
Love it. I mean, like this weekend, I was trying to think one reason why I would want to own a dollar bill over a dollar worth of gold. And I could not think of one. It's like, okay, maybe it's harder to store, it's harder to liquidate, it's not giving me yield, but it's also going to protect me from all those things that are going to collapse the fiat dollar. Right. So I just couldn't. And I had a discussion with someone, I'm not going to name names. And I said, would you rather have $100 US dollar bill or an ounce of gold? And they said the $100 US bill. And I said, well, you understand that there's $1,800 worth of difference there. But they said, what can I do with an ounce of gold? If I needed to go buy dinner, what could I do? Yeah. And I was like, wow. And this person is 12 years younger than me. Right. So they've never understood any of that. Like they've just believed since the day they were born that a fiat currency will always be there for them in their time of need. And right. So it's just an interesting conversation.
It will be.
Yeah, well, of course it will be. Of course it will be.
The time will come when you run out of toilet paper. You've got something else that can use. I mean, there are things going on that I don't understand why people don't understand. 100% of fiat currencies have collapsed through history. So the trick question of the day is what's going to happen to the dollar? And it's one of those, well, gee, give me an hour or two to think about it because, maybe this time it's different. And of course, it's never different. Yeah. We know the dollar is going to collapse. It just hasn't collapsed as fast as the other currencies. But we're so close to things that scare the pants off me.
So speaking of lies, the U.S. believes they can get out of this debt somehow, some way, without destroying us all. What are their options? Are there any options?
Well, there is one. The power of prayer. That is the only possible alternative, okay? Because maybe you could pray your way out of it.
U.S. credit card debt surpassed $1 trillion. So for all the people here that can't do quick math, that's $200 billion a year in interest payments just to service credit card debt. How the hell are people going to get out of that mess?
They can't. Okay, we literally are in a place where anyone who can add and subtract, anyone who took Economics 101 understands what's going to happen. And the only question is, what day do we have the collapse? Okay, nobody questions whether we're going to have the collapse or not. Let's talk about cryptocurrencies. From the very high in the cryptocurrencies to today's price, how much money went to crypto heaven?
Oh, I want to say billions and billions and billions. I don't know the exact number, but it's phenomenal. That transfer of wealth.
2 trillion.
2 trillion.
2 trillion. We are seeing numbers. Okay, let's talk about the increase in the U.S. deficit. How long does it take now to increase the U.S. deficit by $500 billion?
Well, I thought I saw a number like 50 trillion in a few days. It's not 50 trillion, 50 billion in a few days. Like it was just, I was like, what? Like, are these numbers even making sense? It was wild.
Billion, 1 month.
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
I mean, we are so goofy. We're in such a bad place that there's no rational solution. And literally, the guys who believe in the power of prayer probably are closer to a solution than anybody else, because there is no mathematical way you're going to come out of this.
Yeah. Another debt statistic. They're estimating 13 trillion in mortgage lending by the end of 2023. Now, just a massive percentage of that has got to be rolling over in the next year or 2 years at 2 or 3x more. Like, how are they getting out of this? I just don't see any way out of this. So I'm asking you, is there hope at all?
Well, yeah.
By goal?
No. If you're living in Miami and they've got a 160-mile-an-hour hurricane just east of you that's going to hit you in 12 hours, what do you know is going to happen 2 or 3 days later?
Well, certainly people evacuating.
No, the hurricane's passed.
Oh, hurricane's passed. Okay, well, they're trying to rebuild.
So there are a lot of people who think I'm negative, and I am not negative. Okay, I am actually extremely positive. What do you do when your toilet gets totally stopped up, okay, and you've got crap floating up over the sides on the floor? What do you do?
Well, I'm certainly calling a plumber because I'm fixing it myself.
Flush
but
it.
You flush it, or you buy a new toilet, or you fix it. Yeah.
Or new house.
Yeah, maybe.
But the real key is these things have happened for 5,000 years. There is nothing new about financial chaos. It just happens to be bigger now than it's ever happened before. And certainly the degree to which a lot of people want to approach a nuclear World War III. Now, that scares me, but we're going to come through it. And you know, as Einstein said, he knew what World War III was going to be, well, he didn't know what World War III would be fought with, but he knew what World War IV would be fought with. And of course, that's sticks and stones.
Well, when's the next U.S. bank going to collapse, Bob? Because it feels that every time there's a bank collapse, gold rips. Because I believe
Yeah, but
that people buy gold when they don't
but
believe in the
I-
financial system.
You're asking the wrong question, because they're all collapsing right now. And the Fed is saying, hey, come over here. We've got this barrel full of candy. Okay. And you can have all the candy you want. I'm thinking, who doesn't understand when you raise interest rates, you decrease the value of fixed term instruments, period. Okay. So you go from 0.5%, 5%. We had 5% 10-year notes a week ago. Okay. You just blow the value of bonds sky high. When you have Bank of America has losses twice as great as their profit, and they're showing, well, yeah, we're making money. No, you're not. You're not making money. You're losing money.
That's not what my accountant says at the end of the year.
But I'll give you another number. I'm not sure you're familiar with. The percentage of credit card defaults with the small banks is higher than it's ever been before.
Wow.
It's like 6.7% or something like this. So the banks are losing money on the interest they pay. They're losing money on all their fixed term things. The U.S. not banking system, the U.S. bond system, the government bonds have gone down 51% since 2020. We think of bonds as very stable financial instruments, and they're going down. If gold was down 50%, people would be panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And bonds have gone down 50%. The bond market's a whole lot bigger than the gold market. And everybody said, no, everything is just fine.
Yeah.
I don't see anything.
Crazy. So gold has certainly underwhelmed during this time of inflation, considering that a lot of people would have been buying gold to protect against inflation, right? And I say underwhelming because gold is still within 4% of its all-time high, but yet the sentiment is that gold's not performing. So what's going on with that? Where's that thesis of buy gold to protect against inflation? How's that not playing out for people yet? And when will it?
The media and most commentators are lying through their teeth. In September of 1964, I joined the Marine Corps. I did that because I would have gotten drafted anyway. In the first 6 months of training, I got paid $75 a month. Now, a private in the Marine Corps today, for its first 6 months, gets paid $1,650 a month, which is 22 times higher than the $75 a month. So if an ounce of gold was $35 an ounce when I went into the Marine Corps, and it was, what should the ounce of gold be worth today if the relative value of a private in the Marine Corps was the same? How much should gold be worth today? Would
that be 22x? Is that what you said? 22?
Yep.
Yeah. So 35 times 22?
$770. Now, I'm the only guy that points this out. If you looked at the price of postage stamps, if you looked at the price of automobiles, if you looked at the price of housing, if you looked at the price of a private in the Marine Corps, gold and silver are actually fairly valued. This idea that they've been suppressed is nonsense. The value is going to come when they yank the rug out from underneath the dollar, and then all of a sudden gold's going to have value, some value, and of course the fiat dollar is going to go away. The idea that gold and silver are cheap today They're not cheap relative to postage stamps. They're not cheap relative to housing. I mean, when I was a kid, I think we paid $12,000 for a house, and that same house probably 400,000 today. I look at the numbers of ordinary things, and I'm just absolutely astounded that they've gone up so much. Now, I'm not implying for a minute that gold and silver don't have value, but they've actually gone up a lot more than everything else.
Over that longer term horizon. Absolutely.
Over a longer term horizon.
Yeah.
And there's an Australian who runs a website called Gold Charts or Us, and he gives people free subscriptions, and he's got like 500 different charts of different commodities and gold and silver and lots of other things. And he has a metals price comparison where he compares gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, aluminum, and maybe iron. I think there's 7 commodities. And over every period from 1900 to now, gold and silver are almost always up more than the other metals. So the idea that they're suppressed is nonsense. The idea that that silver is somehow going to go from $22 an ounce to $1,000 an ounce, it's not going to do it based on silver. It's only going to do it based on the value of the dollar. When you talk about the price of gold and silver, you're always talking about 2 different commodities. Gold and silver have gone up relative to just about everything. So the idea that they're not a inflation hedge, they're more than an inflation hedge. However, the real gains are going to come when the dollar crashes. And I'm not sure whether that's this week or next week.
Okay, so speaking of silver, like what else can you protect your wealth with?
Well, you can protect it with anything real. You can protect it with land. You can protect it for a family business that actually generates a profit. You can protect it with oil. You can protect it with any commodities. The Western debt-based system goes back to the time of Columbus, okay?
Yeah.
And the Western debt-based system is in conflict with the financial system of the BRICS, which is more of a resource-based system. And frankly, I mean, it should be obvious to anybody that thinks about it. The debt-based system is on its deathbed. Okay, it's dying. We need to come up with something better. And I think the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians and the Brazilians and the South Africans, I think they're doing that. And frankly, I think there's like 70 or 80 countries that are interested in joining BRICS. Clearly, the debt-based system is collapsing, and the economy of the United States and the economy of the EU, and we need to come up with solutions. The most important solution would be to come up with real money. And a piece of paper is not real money. It's a piece of paper. And when it assumes its real value, which is 0, people are going to say, damn, you know, is there anything that we could use that people would actually trust? When I was a kid, okay, I reached in my pocket, and when I pulled out a 10-cent coin or a 50-cent coin or a $1 coin, it was made of 90% silver. When you felt it, okay, you knew you were touching something very real and something that had value. The pennies were made of copper. And even though they were only a penny, you could buy a lot with a penny's worth of copper. Now you reach into your pocket and you pull out coins. They're slugs. Okay? They feel like slugs. They look like slugs. They act like slugs.
They sound like a slug when you drop them on the floor.
Yeah. And if you happen to put a magnet in your pocket, half the coins stick to the magnet. Don't people realize what a scam that is?
Yeah. Speaking of BRICS, like this is very real in my opinion, and it's only just started. And how do you see this unfolding? Like, and whenever people are going to start going, oh shit, like this is real.
That is a really good question. Okay. Do you understand the mathematical concept of how a butterfly flapping its wings in Mexico can cause a hurricane in the Philippines?
No.
Okay. In simple terms, there are so many variables that something like a butterfly flapping its wings can cause something that causes something else that causes something else.
Yeah.
No one I know is smart enough to predict exactly how this is going to work out. I don't have any clue. I know the debt-based system is collapsing. I'm smart enough to figure that out. I know that the Russians and the Chinese and the Indians and the South Africans and the Brazilians are talking about what to do. I think it's as simple as you have to go to honest money and you have to put your hand in your pocket and feel something that you know has value. We know the length of a meter. We know the weight of a gram. We know the quantity of a liter, okay? What we don't know is our currency, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Canadian dollar changes against the US dollar every day, but the key is countries that are so connected as the United States and Canada, their currency still change value 1,000 times a day. If you were a carpenter or if you were a tailor and they changed the length of a meter every day,
that'd be a confusing job.
Yeah. So trying to run a business when you don't know what the value of the currency is going to be.
I want to make one comment on this BRICS thing. To me, it feels like a great financial restructuring for the world, or like a great financial reset. But this time they're saying, sorry, America, you're not in charge anymore. And we're going to fix, right. And that's going to be a good thing, right? Yep. Because you're right. We do need to find a way to back our currency with a measurement stick that doesn't change. So I agree with you there.
Certainly, because you've got Trudeau, we've got Washington, but we've got 50 Trudeaus. Okay. Mm-hmm. When I listen to the idiots in Washington, and I mean that absolutely sincerely, we are run by people who are blithering idiots who should be led around on a leash. They're so stupid. And we're going to regret that. Okay. It's end of the empire. Empires end when they spend themselves into bankruptcy and you get total corruption. And the way to go into total bankruptcy is to fight wars that have no purpose whatsoever, and all they do is bankrupt you.
So when we're talking about gold again, back to the system here, and we'll wrap this up shortly. Are you buying stocks right now? Or do you think that like this collapse is, I'm physical only, I don't want any paper, I don't want any equity, because if it all comes to hell in a handbasket, it doesn't matter if you're a gold producer, you're still going to get cut in half?
Strange enough, in relative terms, the resource stocks are cheaper than they have ever been in history. Yeah. Compared to the price of gold and silver, compared to the general stock market, and compared to the dollar. Gold is 4.5% below, okay, its all-time high. I wrote about a piece about a company today that is down 85% in the last year, and they have hit like crazy. We're going to look back at resource stocks today, and we're going to realize, you know, there were all these stocks that have gone up 10-fold, 20-fold, 50-fold. Why didn't somebody tell us? And the fact is, why didn't you come to my website and read it? Because it's free.
Yeah. I saw those core holes today. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good. And then obviously the backing with Crescat Capital coming in, so that stock should get some good sponsorship, which will be good. Well, Bob, that's been certainly entertaining. You absolutely stripped me of any ego that I had with some of your questions that I couldn't answer today, and I think that's awesome. I love to learn. I certainly don't think that I'm the smartest person in the room. You certainly got a lot more experience than me and different opinions, different views, and I certainly appreciate being able to have just a good conversation on both sides without being angry and learning from each other. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, here's the key. First of all, nobody, and that certainly includes me, has all the answers. There are no gurus. There are no experts. I am not a guru and I am not an expert. I'm a guy who's done a lot of research and I've got some opinions, and once in a while they're correct. But people need to understand from a financial point of view, and perhaps even a physical point of view, we're at the most dangerous point in history. And it's time to stop listening to the people that you know are lying. And we know politicians lie. We know the media lies. So why would you believe them? And sit down and start thinking about it. Americans in general and the world in general have access to more information now than any society has ever been in history. So if you're not up to date with what's going on, and if you don't have a fairly well-educated point of view, that is because of willful ignorance. The information is there. You just got to do some work.
One last question, and then we're going to wrap this up. Is there any scenario you could see unfolding here that doesn't end up terrible?
No.
That's a wrap, folks. Bob, thank you so much for your time. Super honored to have you on the show, and would love to bring you back on and sometime next year and check on where we're at.
Super deal.